Today, we're going to do some of the deep inner work in this episode today, where we're going to dive into what it really means for you to understand yourself on a deeper level so that you can create inner peace. Now, inner peace is achieved, it's a state of mind. It's happening inside of you, it's not something that happens outside of you. In order to do this, you need to understand yourself better. So what I'm going to take you through today is a deep understanding of ego states. These are the different states of mind that we go in, and how you can understand these and navigate your ego states in order to create that kind of inner peace, clarity, and also to step into your own power. Because this is what happens when you really get to know yourself, you understand yourself and your tendencies, the way that you're viewing the world. Now you've got options about what you do with that and how you use that. And the tools that I'm really excited to share with you today will give you that deeper understanding. If you're hearing this for the first time, this can be really transformational for you. It might give you some real insights that you maybe never had about yourself. Even if you're stumbling upon this again, or these are ideas that you've seen before, there will always be a place to take this deeper. I've been understanding these ideas for years. They've really helped me to create a great deal of clarity on my own mindset and on myself, and give me deeper levels of inner peace that I didn't realize were possible. But the journey to take it deeper never ends. So you can always take this further, create more peace, more clarity, more confidence, which is really exciting as well. So this is about the deep inner work and understanding that will lead to greater levels of transformation for you. So let's dive in. First off, what is an ego state? Well, an ego state is our state of mind that we're in. Okay, so our ego is our identity. It's made up of a set of beliefs, values, and judgments of how we relate to ourselves and how we relate to the world. You could call this the personality, if you will. I mean, say, well, I have a personality, or this is just who I am, or this is just how I see the world. Well, that's not fixed forever. It can be fixed in time. So right now, you'll be seeing the world through a certain state. You'll be listening to me or watching me through a certain state. Okay, and the state of mind you're in determines what you pick up and how you think, how you feel, and how you behave as well. So your ego state determines and influences how you think, how you feel, and what you do. So it's really important for us to understand what kind of state of mind am I in? Because if we're in a state of mind that's not helpful for us, we're going to be taking unhelpful behaviors. If it is helpful and empowering, the choices we're going to make, the way that we're going to feel is going to be really great. And that's what we want to kind of get ourselves into as much as possible. That's what's going to allow us to perform great, to communicate with others in a way that's really powerful and really start to get what we want. So the ego states come from a psychological theory called transactional analysis, which was created in the 1950s by psychologist and therapist Eric Berne. Now, the three ego states are the parent, the child, and the adult. And these states can get triggered by situations, by different points in time, even by a thought or by something that happens. And when we're in this state, this is how we operate. Okay, so the first state, the parent state. This is made up of messages that you've downloaded from your parents or caregivers in the first 7 years of life. As a child, you're like a tape recorder and you're taping everything that goes on around you. So somebody might criticize you, they might give you instructions, they might give you messages, and you're constantly downloading these. And the reason that you do it is because you take on all of that, and it's designed to give you ways to cope, to survive, and to operate later in life. And that's why you might find that you either think or you act or you say something that a parent or a caregiver might have done in the past, and you do that automatically. I've certainly noticed this a lot more since becoming a parent. Some of the things that I will say, even the phrases I will use, I think back and I think that's exactly what my parent would have said. And I can go into those kind of states of mind, and that can happen without my conscious awareness. So starting to understand, recognizing this, building awareness around it is really, really critical, because if we understand our ego states, we can start to observe them and become aware of them and not be driven by them. The result of this means being less reactive and more responsive, giving you more options and more choice. So that parent ego state is happening in the first 7 years of life. It starts to get built. And then you have many of these patterns of thought and behavior. Now, what's exciting about this, and as we get into this episode today, you'll see that this isn't fixed and this isn't how you have to be for the rest of your life. It isn't that you just have this parent state and it gets triggered and that's it. No, it's changeable. You can start to understand it. And by not reacting all the time, by observing and being with your inner states from a place of non-judgment, you can start to retrain yourself by taking different actions. And as we look at the different states today, you're going to see how this can free you from anxiety, from overwhelm, from depression, from feeling stuck or helpless in certain situations, and give you more choice and decision-making abilities and more clarity as well. So each ego state has both positive and negative elements to it. They're not good or bad. We just view them as either helpful or less helpful. So the positive aspects of the parent are that it can be nurturing and it can be structuring. So it can be nurturing in that a parent likes to provide for children. They like to problem solve for them. They like to care for them. And also structure in that you plan the day and you organize things and you like to have routine. These are aspects of our parent ego state where you might find that you really want to take control of having a process or having some structure or having a plan, and then that makes you feel good for a period of time and it works to a certain extent. And that's as the different parts of you might have different ideas about how things are done. So the negative aspects of the parental state is that it can be critical. So if you find that you have an inner critic, and I know that you do because we all have this. For me, it ran a lot of the first part of my life. I just listened to this inner critic. I thought it was me. It ran the show for me, constantly going away at me, stopping me from doing the things I want to do. That criticism can be quite limiting, but only if you're not aware of it in what capacity it's operating. So that can be the way a parent might criticize their child. Don't do that. You can't do that. Stop doing that. Or why have you done that? Or that's not good enough. This can come from messages that you received either from parents or caregivers or authority figures or even society growing up. And what happens is these messages come on and then we start to build on them inside our own mind. And it runs as like a narrative. So if we're not aware of this and not aware that this is an ego state or this is a narrative going on, we can actually start to identify with it. And when we're identified with it, that critic becomes us. And then we end up criticizing ourselves and it can hold us back. Even before me making this video for you, the inner critic popped up for me and it said, you haven't put enough thought into making this video, or you need to take longer to design it more, or maybe people don't want to hear this, or maybe this ideas aren't that important. Because I'm so aware of my inner critic and I understand it's trying to help me and it's trying to protect me the same way a parent would, I also know I don't have to listen to it. I can override it. And like I've just done, I make this video, this podcast episode, however you're downloading this or watching it. And I don't have to make that mean something about me. There's another state that I can go into, higher levels of consciousness, awareness, and also even spirituality that we will be able to dive into. But understanding that there's some of these negative aspects of it, the smothering part as well, is trying to control, trying to seek control. These are areas where once we start to see it in a more objective light, we can step away. So the parent state does have some positive elements to it. So like structure, and it can gain a sense of control, but then it can hold us back in terms of trying to over control, being critical, and also the judgments. Many of the judgments we have, we download those from parents or caregivers, and then we can form those judgments. We can be quite critical of ourselves and of other people. So as we start to observe our own judgments from a place of non-judgment and awareness, that critical voice starts to get a little bit more quiet. It starts to have less of a negative impact, and we create some more space from it, starting to move into that inner peace. So now let's look at the child ego state. So that, again, the child ego state is built on and created in the first 7 years of life. And it's how you would be as a child. So there are some really great positive elements of this that we really want to nurture, and we want to express. This can be spontaneity, being spontaneous, wanting to just do things in the present moment and go and play and have fun and be joyful, and be silly as well, right? Being childlike. But on the other hand, there are some negative aspects of being childish. So as a child, in your ego state, the world revolves around you. I want to get what I want when I want it. And if I don't, I'm going to be really upset. And so there are some of these negative aspects of it where the child can be really fearful and really afraid. It can be, this is mine and that's yours, and I'm going to go get it back, and be really defiant and resistive. But on the other hand, there's some of these positive elements of it, like the spontaneity and also creativity as well, right? Our creative engine, our ideas, our self-expression come from our child state, from that part of us, our inner child, if you will, that we want to nurture and we need to love and we need to appreciate. So that's why if we're too serious all the time and we're trying to do things perfect, we get lost in that critic. We get lost in that parent state, and everything's very serious and it's difficult and it's challenging. That's when perfectionism takes over and our child feels oppressed. And our child state, it's got these elements that are really, really important for us, but then also it can hold us back, because as a child, as you're growing up as a child, many of the elements of this childlike state, there's elements of a child that need to be nurtured into becoming an adult, becoming a grown-up. So as a child, you have things done for you. You sit there and you have your food made for you, and then you have it taken away. You have decisions made for you. And all of this is happening. And also, people can be critical, or people can give you feedback. And sometimes as a child, we take things as true. So when somebody gives you, but perhaps they make a mean comment and they say that they don't like you. And as a child, you don't have the reasoning to think, well, is this person's opinion valid? Or do I agree with them? Sometimes we take that on just as truth. And these create childhood wounds that stick with us for life. And sometimes these really have an impact if we don't observe them and analyze them and start to change them later in life. So our childlike ego state, or our child ego state, it has these creative and spontaneous elements. It also can have some resistant and emotional elements. And it's the emotional part that we want to feel and express and understand. We need to connect with ourselves, but we also don't want to have that run our life. Because if you're someone that struggles with discipline, if you're somebody that struggles with doing the things that you want to do or keeping your promises to yourself, or you struggle really being confident, then it might be that your child is running the show for you. And so those emotions are holding you back. And you can see this dynamic between the inner parent and the inner child, where our parent is criticizing us and judging us, and then our child feels oppressed and it feels like its needs are not met and it's scared and it's operating from that place. The child state comes from a place of being a little person in a big world, surrounded by big people like grown-ups and adults. And so the script or the belief that the child forms very often, and many of us form, is this belief that I'm not okay, you're okay. I'm the little one, and adults and everybody else are the big ones. And this can be a stance that we can take in life. And it can mean you don't ask for what you want, or you hold back from sharing what you want to share, and you don't really play out to your full potential. It's because it's like being a little person in a big world. The parent ego state comes from the place of I'm okay, you're not okay. Because I'm the big person and you're not. You need to listen to what I have to tell you. You need to do what I want you to do. And you'll start to see these dynamics play out in life the more that you start to get aware of these different ego states. You'll notice them in yourself. You'll notice them in colleagues and friends and other people as well. And the more you see it, the more compassionate you can become, the more understanding you can become, self-aware you can become, and also more powerful. Fantastic. Okay, so now there is a third ego state, and this one's the exciting one. So the third state is the adult state. In the adult state of mind, we are in the present moment. We are rational. We are making decisions. We are problem solving. And we're not biased by the past or worried about the future, and we're not biased by our inner child or our inner parent. Okay, so we're making empowered decisions in the present. This is where we start to move up into higher levels of consciousness. Because think about how an adult would make decisions compared to how a child would make decisions or a parent would make them. An adult is actually someone who sees themselves as, I'm okay, you're okay. This is the basis of where we want all our communication to come from. There's not this hierarchy where your boss is better than you or higher than you, or this hierarchy where someone who doesn't have a job is lower than you. No, I'm okay, you're okay. You're seeing that you're taking out these judgments and these ideas about where people are, and you're coming from a place of okayness. You're starting to come from a place of personal power and decision making, that you're the authority in your life, and so you can make empowered choices. And also this affects us emotionally and our thought levels. So when we're in certain situations in a child ego state, you can see the difficulty with that. If you're at a meeting with your boss and they're appearing like a parent, maybe they said something that your parent would say, and you go into a child state, then you're going to feel like you're the little one, and you don't have the authority that you want to have. And maybe there's things you can't say because you're scared to ask for them or point them out. Because the thing that we're really afraid of in other people isn't the other person, it's their judge. And Thomas Harris, in his book, I'm Okay, You're Okay, he points this out, that we're not afraid of other people, we're actually afraid of their judge. So when we really see that the other person has ego states the same as us, they have a child state, they have a parent state, and they have a adult state, we can step into an adult state or a more empowered state, and it changes how we show up because it changes the options that we have. So if you struggle with problem solving or decision making or assertiveness, then it's very likely you're being hijacked by your child or your parent state. And they're stopping you from having that rational, present moment, considered adult state where you can make empowered choices and give other people that same permission too, so that you see yourself on level with them. So why understand these states, and how can this really make a difference for you in your life? Well, from the book, The 3 Laws of Performance by Steve Zaffron and Dave Logan, they detail these 3 laws that impact all of our performance. The same way that gravity impacts us. If you drop something, it's going to fall, hit the floor. These laws are determining how we show up. And these ego states are really determining what's going on for us. But I want to relate these states to these 3 laws so that you can see how it impacts your performance, both in personal life and professional life. Okay, so the first law of performance is that the way that we perform correlates to how situations occur to us. Okay, so when we are feeling stuck or we're feeling fearful or anxious, that's not because of the situation, it's because of how the situation occurs to us. So if you're in a meeting with your boss and you're really afraid of them and worried about what they're going to say, they might be occurring to you as like a parent and you're occurring to yourself as a child. Okay? If you're wanting to have a difficult conversation with somebody and you're occurring to yourself as a child and they're occurring as a parent, again, it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be challenging. If you're wanting to get a message across to somebody else, but they keep shutting down all the time and you're being critical, it might be that you're occurring as a parent and they're occurring as a child, and it's overbearing and the relationship's shutting down. So you can start to see that the way that people perform correlates to how situations occur to them. So we are always relating to situations, how they occur to us, but we're also how we occur to ourselves. If we are feeling like we're in a certain state, that relates how we're going to occur to ourselves and then what we're going to do. Now, the second law of performance is how a situation occurs arises in language. So language is really our thoughts and the words that we use. It's that internal narrative. So when we have the parent that's judging us and criticizing us all the time, we can occur to ourselves as maybe someone who's not competent, or maybe someone who's small, or maybe someone who can't do the things that we want to do. Or when we've got that internal narrative of a child that's saying, no, this is difficult, this is scary, it's too much, then we're going to operate from that place. So the way things occur happens in language. The language is in thought. We understand the world through language, through words, through our own internal dialogue. So this is something that we can take control of. We can choose to change how we think, the words that we say, and choose to change how we occur to ourselves. We can step into an adult state, a more empowered state, a higher version of ourselves, and take empowered action, and not have to be oppressed by our own internal parent or handcuffed by our own internal child. So the last law in the 3 laws of performance is future-based language transforms how situations occur. So when we start to choose who we're going to be and choose how we want to show up in situations, the situations then occur differently. So that child, someone in a child state going into a meeting with their boss, who feels like they don't really have much control, who feels like they need to do what the boss is telling them what to do, who feels scared and frightened, when they transform how they occur by choosing to think of themselves as an adult, choosing to step into that mindset, choosing to create a set of beliefs and rules and values from which they're going to operate from, and maybe new things they're going to say and do, their entire demeanor is going to change. The way that they experience that situation is going to change. And with awareness, you can start to see where these states are showing up, where these narratives are showing up for yourself, and start to shift them one by one. And as you do this, they start to change automatically, and you experience more levels of power. So think about the implications this can have for your life. If you're aware in how you're occurring to yourself and how you show up in different situations, and you're willing to take a deep dive and understand that clearer and actually change that on the inside and practice the way that you're showing up, you can completely transform the relationship you have with yourself. These levels of inner peace and inner clarity start to show up in the state of mind that you're in. When you're in that adult, present moment, calm, clear, focused state, now what you can do is access your creativity from your child state and take on board some structure from your parent state, but you're not being run by them, which is being reactive, which is being controlled by them. Like, I have to have this structure, or I have to, I don't want to do that thing. I shouldn't have to pay my bills, or I shouldn't have to have this meeting, that comes from the child. You can instead make empowered choices from what you would do in that adult state. So what is the price for being an adult? The price is taking responsibility. It's taking responsibility for your inner states of mind. So understanding these ego states, understanding your inner critic and your inner parent, and choosing not to criticize yourself, choosing to recognize when that shows up, but also taking responsibility for your child state. So that means when you're not feeling it, that means when you're feeling frightened and scared, rather than blaming yourself or beating yourself up for it, it's understanding yourself, because childhood needs that were not met when you were growing up, these are the things that stay open, and this is what keeps that ego state running the show for you. So taking responsibility means now being the adult that's going to look after that inner child. So you can do that through affirmations, positive self-talk, and also noticing the inner critic and not buying into it, by learning to focus on new things, by learning to take action in the face of criticism, just like I'm creating this for you, even though part of me tells me not to do it. This happens all the time, but it no longer becomes a problem. It starts to get really, really quiet because I've been there so often. It's about strengthening a ego state, or the ego state that you want to strengthen. And you do this through a combination of things. So number one is the way you think, the words that you use, but the most powerful is the actions that you take. So really the price that you pay for being empowered, for creating inner peace, is giving up some of the things that you would do if you were being a child. So these are the negative aspects, of the aspects you want to start to drop away so that you can have that self-empowerment. So the more that you act in a childish way, which is complaining, being entitled, avoiding difficult conversations or difficult situations, the more you strengthen that state, the more you increase the level of anxiety and train that part of you. The more that you feel those feelings, you understand yourself, you make yourself feel safe, and then you take action, and not being driven by the feelings, but by driven by your rational and empowered decisions, and you act on them, you train your adult ego state, which is training your higher self, which is starting to create these levels of empowerment. So inner peace will arrive by that. You're going to feel these uncomfortable feelings and take action, and the inner peace is going to be the result of. So inner peace will arrive when your judge stops judging you and your inner child feels safe and seen. And at this point, the mind can start to settle and the real you can emerge. The adult ego state is really a gateway between you and your higher self, where you can start to connect to higher levels of spirituality and peace and freedom and new levels of creativity and confidence as well. So the key is not listening to that inner critic. It's hearing it, but making your own empowered choices, speaking back with a positive, self-loving and self-affirming voice, and also understanding and meeting your own needs, making yourself feel safe, and really going through the process to see where this shows up for you. What are the predominant states that you're in life? Where are the areas where you're feeling challenged, or you're feeling afraid, or you're feeling stuck? This is about training yourself to really show up in the most powerful way. Now, you can do this by really starting to take a look at this, but some of these ego states, we live inside them and we can't always see them ourselves, which is why the most powerful way to do it is with the support of an expert or a coach or someone that can guide you through the process and really help you see this from an objective view as you really start to understand yourself more and create more freedom. So be compassionate with your inner child, lead it, listen to it, take care of it, show it the steps that you need to take in order for it to grow, and don't buy into the critic. Don't let it stop you from taking the actions that you want to take. It's going to put you in double binds where it says all the decisions that you're going to make are the bad ones, and it's always going to be critical and hold you back, but it only holds you back if you let it. So you'll also see and you'll understand that as you grow, two things are going to happen. One is, as you step out into the unknown, you're going to hear criticism. That's going to be that parent ego state trying to protect you and keep you safe, which sometimes can be smothering. The second thing you're going to experience is fear, where your child state is going to feel like it's small, like it's not ready yet, like it's afraid, like it can't do the things that you want to do. I guarantee you that you can. And so building the self-belief and consciousness and awareness and really growing requires you to be able to overcome that criticism, be able to feel emotions and feel fear and not be driven by them, but instead be driven by actions that align with your highest version. And this whole process of self-awareness will really help. So the place for you to start to really apply this in your life is to ask yourself, what would an adult do here? What would my higher self do here? And start to take actions in that direction and listen to the internal world that shows up for you, but without having to be guided by that. Be guided by what would an adult do and lean into that and see what shows up for you. Thanks for joining me today. For more insights and tools, I release a newsletter every single Friday to my email list. If you want to join that, I'm going to put a link in the description of this episode so that you can sign up so you don't miss an email, because there's lots of value in there. And it's my intention that just like these episodes, that will also be really helpful for you. And I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from the psychologist Albert Ellis. And he said that the best years of your life are the ones in which you decide that your problems are your own. You do not blame them on your mother, the ecology, or the president. You realize that you control your own destiny. I'll see you on the next episode. And as always, big love.